Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Tiffany, chiropractor and holistic health and life coach. Let's continue our conversation on autism. So recently, RFK Jr. has provided us with more information with what he believes are some of the environmental causes of autism. And his causes that he's listed have received a lot of pushback from political officials, of course, the researchers and the pharmaceutical companies, as well as just some of the common public, right? But it is worth noting that these are all things that we need to take a deeper look into. And I do agree with his stance and him saying that more research needs to be done in these areas because these areas are often overlooked. So let's discuss some of the environmental causes that he listed. And I do have my notes here, so you will see me looking at them. So there are about 4 or 5 of them. The first cause with regard to the environment and autism are toxic metals. So that would include metals like lead, mercury, and several others, right? But lead and mercury are 2 of the most common, and those are the first 2 that come to mind. A lot of the injections that the physicians recommend do have some level of mercury in them, and that is not discussed enough. It's something that is hidden and overlooked. Any type of exposure to lead, and we know that that is something that is common, right? Even in schools. Now, let's just say, for example, I know that there are a couple of different schools in my hometown that have been closed down due to the lead exposure and the children and the adults that are being exposed to it. So that's something that's definitely detrimental to our overall health and the health and well-being of our nervous system. The second type of cause is mold exposure. So mold exposure also affects the nervous system in a negative way. And these are not just exposures for children that are already here. These are also toxic effects and exposures that moms can endure during pregnancy, right? We know that everything is developing within the baby, and our nervous system, which is the most important system, takes a lot of time to develop, and any type of negative interference can have negative effects. So mold exposure is another environmental cause that he listed. Next, we have processed foods, and we know that the processed foods and the food dyes are something that have gained a lot of traction recently with regard to attention deficit. But those food dyes, as well as propionic acid, can also be a contributing factor to autism, and that's also overlooked. A lot of the ingredients that are and are not listed, because they don't list everything, can negatively affect the brain development, so on and so forth. Pesticide exposure. So if mom and she's with child and baby are exposed to pesticides, if children are exposed to pesticides when they're outside playing, then this is also something that can negatively affect nervous system development and also brain activity once the child is of age and they're outside playing or at school playing. Lastly, and this is something that isn't talked about because, of course, there is an agenda, and this is ultrasound. So when mom is pregnant and she goes in and she has 1, 2, maybe 3 ultrasounds, a lot of moms don't realize the amount of radiation that they're exposing the baby to. And that radiation has a negative effect on the nervous system, right? The brain as well. And remember, when they are having these ultrasounds done, the baby's still in the developmental stage. And so I question a lot of people that don't really think that that can be a negative contributing factor, because if ultrasound was okay, and if it was something that didn't negatively harm us, then why do the techs walk out the room, right, when they are taking the pictures? Why do they have to wear the radiation badges? And it's due to the fact that prolonged exposure or too much exposure can be detrimental to the body. And so just think of the negative effects that it can have on a developing fetus or a baby that's in the womb, right, who's still going through the process of growth and development. So a lot of these things and all of these things are able to be minimized, right? Some of them can be eliminated completely, but of course we can't control everything, and some things within the environment are out of our control. But we can do our part to make sure that we are taking a look at these things and being intentional. So you don't have to have 4 or 5 or 6 different injections every time you take your baby to the doctor, or not so much you, but the child. You don't need more than one ultrasound, and oftentimes you really don't need that if you aren't high risk, but that's up to the person overall. So we will definitely continue our conversation on autism, but with regard to the environmental causes, I agree with what he's saying, and more research needs to be done. This is also something that needs to continue to be discussed moving forward. Until next time, heal holistically, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.